I don't know where that bloody bracket.
Good evening. I'm having a bit of trouble with my camera, but bear with.
Evening, Stuart.
I understand that
Emily?
problem.
Good evening.
Ah, there we go. Good evening.
Full house. Nearly.
I believe we have quite a quorum. Okay, I believe we're ready to go. Nick, I'm just checking it. You're present and correct. So bear with. Oh, I'll find an agenda.
I can green.
I apologise. Waiting on Microsoft to open. Aha.
There you go.
So, good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Planning Subcommittee for the 2nd of November. And first of all, I just need to check with you, Nick, are we recording the meeting?
We are correct.
And are we live on YouTube as well?
We are. Yeah.
Oh, indeed. Okay. Oh, someone else got the agenda up as well. Thank you. All right. Item 2. Any apologies?
No apologies, Chairman.
It appears we're all present.
Present.
So we move on to any declarations of interest. I ought to mention that I'm a scout leader, and the scout hut is adjacent to one of the applications we're hearing tonight, which is, I'll get there in a minute. The Elms, I think it is.
Stirler Close, probably.
No, thank you. Stirler Close, absolutely. Yeah. So I don't know whether that.
Are we in the middle of this subcommittee meeting?
I don't know whether that means I should sit out. Nick, I'd look to.
Probably best to.
Right.
Councillor
Okay.
Ruffles, did Councillor Ruffles?
Yes, Chairman, the interest I declared at the last meeting, which was this time now in connection with 1857 25 Castle Street. I know the applicant.
Right. Okay. And anyone else?
I need to step out, Chairman.
Yep.
I need to
Councillor
step
Tuega.
8 Sterler Close as well, because I have a personal, I have an interest in a property almost adjacent to it.
Right. Is it just me that's struggling slightly to hear you, Councillor Tuega?
No, I can't hear him either.
Sorry, I'm on my, I don't know what, I'm on my phone because I couldn't get through on my laptop, but I'll try to change that in a bit.
Right. If yeah, we can hear when you speak a bit closer to the microphone.
Okay, so I need to step out 8 Sterler Close. Sorry about that.
Right. Any other declarations of interest before we move on? I've got a feeling my camera is going to come and go, so I hope that you'll be able to hear me anyway. We'll move on to look at the minutes of the previous meeting. Is everyone happy that those are an accurate record of the meeting that was held on the 19th of October?
Chairman, I'm happy, but could I point something out before we approve? And that's a common misnomer for the Ashbourne. This is in the first item of the minutes, the land west of Mangrove Road, where there's a record made of the swale discharging into the Hag. That actually isn't the name of the watercourse. It's the Ashbourne, and Hag is a name that people have been trying to discover where it came from, but it's not from that particular watercourse.
So that watercourse is actually called the Ashbourne, is it?
Yes. Yeah. That would make it our comments tie in with others. I don't think it's worth referring, making an additional comment to the.
But for future reference,
I think they'll catch on. And there is an odd predictive text in the item 1 before the end when we've set a precedent instead of a.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that doesn't matter either. Sorry to interrupt the proceedings. I'm happy to propose an accurate record, Chairman, having said that.
Right, thank you. And anyone going to second that? Thank you, Councillor Traeger. And I suppose we do need to vote, do we? Just for completeness. Okay. So we can move on then to next item on the agenda, which is any matters arising. So are there any updates on paper A?
Chairman, no updates on any items.
Okay. And do we have any questions and or statements from members of the public?
Chairman, no, we don't.
Okay, so in that case, we'll move straight on to paper B. And the first item on paper B is 83 4th Street. And this is, I believe, the new signage for, someone's going to help me here in a minute.
Yes, it's Lussman's.
Lussman's. Thank you very much.
I find it hard to object to that that signing. Chairman.
Certainly, the digital images looked, you know, as if it's actually an improvement on what was there before.
Yes, they do to me.
Yeah. So, any other comments before we?
Chairman,
Yep.
I believe this is a listed building consent application. I think we've seen have we seen the other application, the planning application one as well last time, I believe.
Right. Okay. And what did we make any comment on the last occasion? I don't think we did.
No, I don't. I'm trying to remember what the comments were.
We had no objection, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, in that case, the same comments should apply for the listed building consent, and we'll move on to 42 Port Vale, which is a loft conversion. Anyone want to start on this? I've got some comments, but perhaps hear from other members first.
Right. So,
Well, it's in Benjo Ward, Chairman, and it is quite busy at the back. There's a lot of new development next door to this property. There used to be a chapel, which then was converted to industrial use and has now got new build on it. And then in a little further up, there's development in the area between Russell Street and this address. So I guess it's a question of overlooking. And personally, I didn't think there was a problem. But
I've got a couple of comments. First of all, there's going to be a loss of chimney. I don't know whether anyone noticed that there's a proposal to remove a chimney.
well,
Yes, that was my objection.
And secondly, if you look at the roof line on the back of that, first of all, it's quite a sort of an old terrace. That particular sequence of 4 or 5 properties is quite an old terrace, and there are no dormers on the rear at the moment of that row of terraces, so that the roof line is sort of unbroken at the moment, and this would I suppose be the first break, if you like, on that roof line on what are some quite old cottages, and I don't know whether we have a view on that in the conservation area.
I support what you're saying, Mr. Chairman.
I agree.
I think the facts you can see on the drawings to the left, bottom left of the picture on the screen, that obviously previously there's been a former use of that large archway with big gates coming in, with the front door being inside the big double gates.
Yeah.
So there's a certain historic feel to the properties.
Well, perhaps you could make a comment, Nick. Just that you know, the committee regrets the loss of a chimney on this historic
building.
row of terraces, and that the roof line at the rear of these properties is currently unbroken, and that a new dormer would create a precedent in terms of breaking that continuity in the conservation area, that continuity of roof line in the conservation area. Then we move on to the next application, which is Foxrock. Not quite sure where the name comes from, but it's 18 Morgans Road.
This is in the conservation area, Chair. And the only thing I was going to say about it is that the extension as it stands, it's not in the extension that's the problem. It's the nature of the extension, I think, and it's just completely out of keeping with the existing buildings.
It's the finishings that I've got a concern with.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I must admit, I don't like the flat roof, but it's the finishings that are the issue. I quite agree.
So there's a side extension, as we can see, a single story side extension,
Yeah.
which they finished in matching materials effectively.
Yes.
So it's got a brick base or whatever with pebble dash
Yes,
walls.
correct.
I don't really understand why they couldn't continue that theme on onto this new extension.
Well, I suppose because you've got to have these massive bifolding doors, but I mean that doesn't alter the fact that it's still a very, very ugly and out of keeping extension.
I think it's cost. Wood cladding, no doubt, is cheaper than.
It's at the back of the building, isn't it?
It is at the rear of the building, yeah.
But it is in the conservation area, and these are big houses, and you get long views of them from other houses in the area. To me, it's just not in keeping.
Yeah, I agree.
So Nick, if we could, again, a comment that committee object to the materials used, and note that the previous side extension was finished in materials that match the existing property. And that the large glazed area to the rear of the extension is out of keeping with the rest of the building.
And the materials. Yeah, I suppose yes, you've covered that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was aluminium, framed new PVC or something.
Look, yeah.
Well, that was existing. Oh, no, there we go. Yeah, aluminium windows, bifolding doors in sort of graphite grey. I don't know what the existing windows are. But just seems out of keeping with the existing property. And if you could finish, Nick, with a comment in the conservation area, because obviously that's one of the issues for us. So then we could move on to 37 St Leonard Road. Where they want to convert a garage into a downstairs bedroom. My only observation on this property is that there is a lot of off-street parking. So I know we normally regret the loss of garage, but they paved over their whole front garden, so I don't think there's going to be an issue with parking.
No.
No, and the house, like the one in the Elms we're going to look at later, doesn't read with any other property other than its immediate neighbour, and they're not an identical pair, as it were, as we've sometimes had to wrestle with that concept.
Right.
I'd be happier to go against our guidelines or principles
On this occasion.
on this occasion.
Is it a no comment rather than no objection?
No comment anyway.
Or should we maybe say, perhaps we ought to say that whilst we note there's this will result in the loss of off-street parking or the loss of a garage for parking, there is ample off-street parking on this particular property. Did you capture that, Nick?
Chairman, yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. Then we move on to 4 Owens View. And basically they had planning permission in 2018 or whatever. And now that they're actually finishing it off, I think they just want to change the windows slightly. And the rear patio doors.
And the required Juliet balconies, which are now absolutely critical to any.
Modern conversion.
Yes.
I would like to say they're there so that you can do your Life of Brian moment, but perhaps not appropriate in a planning meeting. I've no issues personally with this. Any observations?
No.
There's no observations?
No.
No. Okay. No objection. Then Nick.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to 8 Stirler Close, and as this is adjacent to the Scout Hut, perhaps I ought to sit this one out. Councillor Newton, would you be
Yep.
happy just to lead on this?
Okay, happy to do so. Okay, Nick, have
Okay,
you anything to say at this juncture?
it's okay. Let's get the plans up. The plan right around. That's the location plan. So yeah, that's the location adjacent to the hall. Okay, and if I get the proposals up.
At the moment,
Realised you can't see it.
I can't see any. Oh, yeah, thank you, Nick.
They're photographs rather than PDFs, so that's why
Okay. All is revealed.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so anything, Nick, that is, as an officer, something we should seriously be concerned about?
Okay, so let me just grab which building. Here's the so if I show you location. Here we go. So
Wow.
so these are the proposals. If I show you the existing plans now, existing location. It's slightly more difficult, Chairman, because photographs rather than PDFs. I have to flip from one to the other. So existing, if you could, here's the existing height
Right,
shown here,
okay. Yep,
and the new height
is considerably more.
is considerably more. Yeah, exactly. So,
Yo. How much considerably more in relation to everybody else? Oh,
and
The whole
here you go.
story.
and it's all gone. Oh. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
the
so-
rest, Chairman, the rest of the street is still at the built height.
yeah,
So this is adding a third.
yeah.
Immediately, it's at the end of the cul-de-sac, as you could see on the earlier drawings, and immediately opposite, I suppose it's number 7. There is already, it's the only property in the street, a front extension that actually kind of looks all right, although it's probably, it might well lead to being the first of more than 2. But the big difference is the height on this one. It changed, and I think I'm right in saying it would be the only 3-story property in the whole of that estate, but it is a very tucked away property.
Yeah, it bothers me though. On the top, are we looking at Yeah. How
Okay.
much can they overlook other premises on the
Yes.
third level?
I shall get the plan up.
Because I am aware of this property. Yeah.
There you go. So we have the property owner number 7. It's there.
Yeah.
Side, and over the number 3's back garden is this side.
Yeah.
Oh, is that back or front? Back garden, yeah, back.
That's number 3 Millmead Way, I think, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
All set back, but not with a special street name.
I mean, this is not a conservation area or anything like
It
that.
is, Chairman, yes.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought. So, yeah, well, I have concerns. I have concerns about the height overlooking others and the dramatic change to the look of the area by having 3 stories. But I'm open to anybody else's points of view on this.
Are the windows of the adjacent properties on in such a way that they're looking in, or is the new build or the extension will be such that it will be looking into other people's properties?
I didn't, but personally, I didn't see a particular risk. The Scout Hut is single story.
Yeah.
It would be possible to crane your neck, presumably, to the left from the back of the building. I don't think serious, proper overlooking would be an issue, but it would have a lovely view over a flatter streetscape, as it were, the backs of lots of other properties. But I don't think overlooking in the sense of privacy is like this.
No, Chairman, the biggest factor is obviously there's some big windows here, which would
Yeah.
obviously be very open. This picture down here does show the existing height here compared to the proposed height. It shows you the difference.
I'm surely, Chairman, this is just gross overdevelopment of the site.
Yeah, as I said, it is. And I was just about to say, unless anybody disagrees with me, as I've already said, I'm not comfortable with this at all. And as Councillor Pinkham has just said, I think it's an example of gross overdevelopment. And okay, maybe you have to crane your neck to look across to the Scout Hut where there will be scouts. That's by the by, but really, I'd like to object to this. Yeah.
We call it the conservation area, and this changes the
Yes.
area that we're trying to conserve in a very manifest way,
Yes.
even though it's at
absolutely.
the end of its cul-de-sac.
You're quite right, Councillor Ruffles. Yeah. Does anybody else want to say anything more? What have you got, Nick, then?
Okay, so that this development would be a dramatic change to the area, and in the conservation area, and the committee have concerns about the height of the development and potentially overlooking others, and is an example of gross overdevelopment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Are we all content with that?
Agreed.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll hand over back to the chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we'll move on to 2 Russell Street, which is provision of new patio doors to the rear elevation and a new window to the flank wall. So yeah, perhaps you could just show us the block plan just so we can get familiar with Russell Street. This is also off Port Vale, but it's on the corner, isn't it? It's joined with So the front door is actually in that little sort of, it's not an alcove, but a little cut in, if you like, that you can see. And what they're proposing to put in place is this. I don't know whether don't know whether it's a garage conversion quite or whatever, but
Well, it was a pub, another Greyhound.
oh, okay.
Both the two properties, the one actually on the corner, and then the pub extended into the property we're now looking at. And there is a bricked up door in this property on the Russell Street frontage.
All right. And then they're proposing to put a window in the side elevation. Any observations?
I can't
Any-
see any objections, to be honest.
No. It is in the conservation area.
Yeah, but it's not creating an ugly block, is it?
No.
No, it's tucked away, and there's the window. It's quite high. Presumably, it's just to provide some light inside rather than.
Yeah, if it was a former pub, then it probably is. Just needs some more light into it.
I have no objection to this. Any
No.
other comments? All right, so it's a no objection, I think, Nick. And now we move on to Molewood Hall, which I couldn't find on the system. Nick, I don't know whether you're able to update us on that.
Chairman, yes, I can update you on this one. Okay, just 1 second. I just get my notes. Okay, yeah, this retrospective planning application has been reviewed by a planning services manager and decided to decline the determine the planning application in accordance with section 70 of the Town and Country Planning Act. So basically, it's been removed. The district council has removed it from the website, and no decision will be issued for application. So,
Right.
if they made a decision to remove it,
I mean, just for fullness, I mean, we looked at this last year and we objected. It was a retrospective application, and they now put a new application in saying it's for retention of an equipment store. Well, they never had planning permission to put it up in the first place. So, you know, that by way of a little bit of background, but clearly the district have caught on to that and if you like, disallowed the application. So we can move on to paper C, I believe. And the first item on paper C is Bluecoat's house, which we've seen before.
It's just been removed, I think.
I can give you an update on this one, Chairman, as well.
Thank you.
So this one isn't for this one was put added paper C in error, so it should have been just a consultation update really for the committee, to tell the committee that the district council's development management committee will be considering this on the 4th of November. So we've already submitted our comments and they're now going through that process.
Okay. It's just an observation. Presumably our comments from the 27th of January are included. Sometimes I'm finding when I look at historic applications that our comments haven't actually been added to the particular application, but presumably on this occasion.
Yeah,
Chairman, they are part of the
Chairman, yeah, the comments are on the website.
Quite a full response from us.
Good. Indeed, there was. Yeah. So we can move on then to land rear of 22 Calton Avenue, which is 3/20/2003. Just while Nick is getting this up, by way of background, they did receive planning permission for a 4-bedroom detached dwelling, which was in line with other developments in these rear gardens of Calton Avenue. So this is between Calton Avenue and the Welling Road, basically. And having got planning application for 4-bed detached dwelling, this is now they want to split the building into 2 and make it 2 semi-detached instead of 1 4-bed. So again, does anyone want to make a start in terms of comments?
Well, I think, Chairman, just a starter, I can think of detached properties on the Welland Road, new ones, all in Elizabeth Close are detached rather than semi-detached. And I think number 4 Welland Road, which is also a new build, is a detached property. And I guess that we had that in mind when we considered the earlier application for 1 4-bed, whatever it may mean.
I know this is a sort of a simple question, but so many people are attempting to put 2 houses together as one, and this is one house wanting to split into 2. I'm wondering what the thinking, just of curiosity, what the thinking is. I mean, it's not a planning matter for me to be curious.
You can get more money.
Yeah, more money, financial benefit.
Thank you, Councillor Pinkham. Yeah. It's
Okay,
purely
yeah.
a financial one. The developer is saying, well, he can earn more money from selling 2 semis than he can from 1 detached.
Yeah, well, that's all very well, but
There's always people looking for 4-bedroom houses, families.
They are quite in demand, but clearly, again, financially, he's of the view that he can make more money with 2 detached, 2 semis, sorry, rather than 1 detached.
is there provision around the property to accommodate what would be 2 individual families plus cars plus parking?
Well, I mean, all they've suggested is there's sufficient space there, turning space for vehicles to come in and out.
Yeah, I think there will be sufficient space, but in answer to that specific question.
And you get 2 postage stamp gardens instead of 1.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, tiny gardens. Big turning space, tiny gardens at the back.
Yeah.
Game room.
Is there an argument, obviously, for the need of dwellings? We're still on that, aren't we? Would that be in favour of allowing this, the need for appropriate residents in the area?
Well, it'll cross 2 properties off our need to build list. So
yes,
the other department of the council, not planning, will be benefiting. Their figures will slightly.
from a consumer point of view, they would probably be obviously more accessible than the detached. And for people living in Steel, it fits in that rung in the ladder, if you like. Maybe that's what the developer has seen, that there is a gap in that ladder, and to go to detached is a big step up.
Yeah.
So I suppose if it doesn't impinge on the area detrimentally, and it doesn't increase problems with the roads and the parking, then there's no reason why it shouldn't go ahead then.
It's facing that new development, which has similarly 3 and 4. Maybe that's part of the thinking as well. It's facing Thieves Lane development.
Yeah.
And they're pitching it perhaps in that market.
Yeah, could be. Yes. Yeah.
So it's a no objection then.
No.
I propose an objection, Chairman.
Oh, Councillor Ruffles.
I mean, I can see all of the arguments, and I'm not very particularly strongly exercised about it, but I think on balance, the developing character of the build on Welland Road suggests that they are detached properties, and therefore I think this particular site ought to contribute in the same way, because we need a mixture of housing stock.
And these smaller properties, I mean, there's a lot of development going on around this area that will provide that sort of housing stock.
Wouldn't that contribute to the housing stock?
Well, there's not many 4-beds. I mean, there's a lot of smaller.
Not many detached. You mean 4-bed detached, just 4 beds?
Yes, it's the detached element that
Yes,
indeed.
I fully understand what Councillor Ruffles is saying. I see very clearly his point of view.
But it could be argued perfectly well that the bulk the two semi-detached properties and the one single one are identical. Therefore, visually, it won't matter. But I'll make that proposal, Chairman, just to see what support there is.
Sure. Again, as with Councillor Toega, I can see the merit of that argument, and that there aren't many detached properties being, of this scale being built at the moment. So, are the committee happy to go with an objection? Councillor Lynch, you're also a Seal ward member.
I think I agree with the synopsis that Councillor Ruffles has put in place.
Okay, so Nick, it is then an objection, and the grounds for our objection are that other properties being constructed in this area are all of a detached style, and to allow or to introduce a semi-detached residence will be out of keeping with the other properties in this area. Accessing Welling Road, I think, the Welling Road, because presumably they'll get a Welling Road address, won't they, ultimately?
Yes. Chairman, do you want to mention, as somebody did earlier in the debate, the space behind, the garden space behind?
Oh, okay, yeah. We also note that by introducing a turning space and moving the building further back from the road, this results in very small back gardens for the semi-detached properties.
I suppose it also therefore impinges a bit on the benefit of number 22, who are presumably the people who sold off the garden in the first place. But I mean, the house will be closer to their property than would otherwise have been the case.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You've
All right. I think. Did you catch that as well, Nick? By moving the building further back, it also further encroaches on number 22, Carlton Avenue. All right, Nick.
Nick?
I'm just looking for a nod. Yes, we got a nod. He's on.
Sorry,
mute.
I'm on mute.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right.
Thank you.
Now we can move on.
Left.
Now we can move on to number 3, the Elms. So there was an earlier application that was refused because it was overbearing on the neighbour to the west. So if we've got 3 the Elms up, I'm just waiting. So we could just zoom in a little bit so we can.
So that's the
This
existing
is off Fixon
plans.
Drive. Yeah.
And the proposed.
It makes me think they should move to the Welling Road instead of doing that. It's overdevelopment.
Well, quite.
I think it is overdevelopment of the site.
We objected on the last occasion, overdevelopment of this cramped and small site and insufficient parking for the increased scale of property. They've now got a larger dorm, a large dormer with 4 windows, as you can see there. So if you actually saw the rear elevation, they've introduced 4 dormers into the.
It's horrendous.
Extension. And they all overlook 19 Vixen Drive there. So those are all dormer windows.
Thank goodness I'm not having to pay for the curtains.
Yeah.
And they're all, directly overlooking 19 Vixen Drive. So, I mean, are we still of the view that this still represents overdevelopment of a cramped and small site?
Yeah, massively.
Yes. Actually, Councillor Lynch, dormer windows have blinds, dear. So
You have what?
Blinds.
blinds, they have blinds, dormer windows, not curtains.
All right, okay.
But even so,
I say, Kurt,
We're also concerned that the proposed dormer windows will overlook 19 Vixen Drive.
yes.
So it's an objection.
Okay.
Chair, I think that's it's not Vixen Drive, it's overlooking, it's the Elms.
If we just have a look at the plan
Actually,
again.
Yeah,
hmm.
it's a tricky
There you
one.
go,
This
there
one.
you go.
If we could just look
Yeah.
at the site plan again, or
That's, yeah, the Elms is, goes
can't
around.
see it on our screen. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, because I'm not in,
Yeah,
I'm in the wrong section. That's better.
there we go. So,
Yeah,
with
that's,
so it's the property I'm considering is to the right of the screen as we're looking, because
That
those
one, yeah,
doors
it is
out.
Vixen, right?
That's number,
Yeah.
I believe, number 19. Oh, but is it the Elms?
The
Rather?
Elms,
the Elms, it's the
definitely the
Elms.
Elms, Chair.
Oh, right, yeah, yeah. Again, I
Elms.
stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Confusing.
19, the Elms. Yes, because yes, absolutely. It swings round, doesn't it?
Yeah. I didn't think there was any room left there to build anything more.
It is quite tight in there.
Yeah, cat.
All right. So if have it, thank you for that correction. If we could move
Yeah,
on to 279 Ware Road. So this is interesting. I actually looked at the officer's report. There was an earlier application for a 2-story garage.
We objected to that, didn't
We
we?
objected to that, and the officer in writing his report, the planning officer in writing his report, actually quoted our comments verbatim in his report and cited those as reasons for objecting. This is now a single-story garage. Better. Again, Nick, I don't know whether you've made any changes on your screen, but
Just trying to get,
we haven't seen them yet.
get it up.
my screen is too
No,
bright.
Got too many windows open now. Just gonna close them.
The only, while we're waiting, the only, it's a single story which is similar to others, 2 or 3 along, but from the drawings, I couldn't tell how high this single story was going to be. If it was at 2.5 meters, I would say yes, fine. But I mean, it looks like it's not too high.
In the design and access statement, they do actually quote a height.
Ah, I missed that.
But
Sorry.
I can't from memory remember what that number was, but it's certainly less than.
Yes.
There we go.
Is, Chairman, is Councillor Hunt able to give us any useful information? I think he's looking at the Google Streets.
Google Maps.
Whatever it is.
So this is at the rear of the property. It's accessed sort of along. There's an access road, isn't there?
Yeah, with the allotments and the mudlarks.
Yeah, that's it.
They call it the service road.
Yeah. Are you able to?
Well, you know,
There you go.
there are some garages along there in back gardens. But
There are.
There are. But then, kind of in some ways, it looks like a bit of a shame that they're there when you look at the sort of outlook at the back of the houses. But I suppose they're only really obscuring their own view.
We had concerns about the height of the 2-story building, and that there was a loss of view over. Is it the meads there?
It's the allotments and the meads, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see the meads. I don't know if you can see here.
The allotments are already well looked over anyway.
Yeah.
But,
technology.
as I say, for me, they've now put the gym alongside the parking. They've reduced the amount of parking they've got and put the gym on the sort of ground floor, if you like. And there's no upstairs now to this.
Yeah, we definitely don't want a 2-story one. That's for sure.
Well, look,
So someone asked a question about the height.
yeah.
I'm just seeing if I can find you a number. Site planning history.
There are some scraggy looking garages down there.
There are. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that was quite nice. Here's some good scruffy
Okay.
ones for asbestos.
A height of approximately 4.4 meters.
Whoa.
There you go.
Oh, that's like 2 stories.
Well, yeah, it's not much different but there's only a single story now. Whether that leaves room later.
They can stick a window in the roof.
Like this one here.
I thought the regulation was that if you're building a garden room, which essentially this is a garden room attached to a garage, if you're within 2 meters of the neighbors, it shouldn't be more than 2.5 meters high. I thought I read somewhere.
At the bottom of their garden. So, in fact, that picture there shows another garage further
Yeah.
down. That's
Oh my goodness, what are we doing to the world?
Destroying it.
And Councillor Hunt also showed us an image of one. So that's the view looking back up at the house, and because the ground does steeply drop away from Ware Road down towards the Meads. They're suggesting that it's 21 meters from the nearest, and therefore.
Why does it have to be that high? It's a
Exactly.
single-story garage.
Yes.
I think if you go, if you go back up, Nick, just within this design access statement, I think because it's a double garage, just slightly further up, we're nearly there. I thought there was an image I saw in terms of design there. Yeah, I think it's because of the width of the double garage door or whatever, sort of almost dictates how high the roof's going to be.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Sure, I can object to it that much, actually, given what's down to it.
Yeah.
I must admit, although it's less than the last one, and it's now a single story, and that was our main concern, was that the double story was too high.
John, I meant to go back to the screen today and forgot. Is there any mention of a bargaining point to remove at the front of the property on Ware Road the existing parking place? It's absolutely hideous, and
It is.
sort of comes into their front room, which is a fairly nicely attractive front, but for the fact that there's a concrete car parking place poking into the front, one of the front windows.
I think if you go right to the top, is it not on at the start of this document there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's never going to be a wonderful frontage, but where the white car is, there's a concrete platform, as it were, and so in that room you look out into the radiator grille of your expensive car.
Yeah.
I meant to look to see if there was an offer to remove that, if permission could be granted for the garage at the back.
I think it's
Perhaps we could comment, make a comment about the committee find a single-story garage more acceptable than earlier application for two-story garage, and the committee would be interested to know whether this would result in the removal of the parking at the front of the property.
Yeah,
what is it? A retaining wall, or it's a?
I think. Do you say on-site parking? Because there will still be
on-site parking. Sorry, at the front of the property.
Yeah, they own, don't they, a bit of the what appears to be the highway there. All those properties.
Yes, in that they
highway
converted their gardens into parking, effectively. I don't know whether they've actually built it up so that it's level with the road, but it's quite strange, isn't it?
It doesn't look.
It's the wall that we're concerned about, is it?
No, it's the actual bit on the left of the screen.
Yeah.
It doesn't. This picture doesn't show quite how bad it is. And
I can see they would be looking straight out at the radiator grill of the car.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Front window.
very close indeed to that window, and it's been there for quite a long time. So, but I wondered if they'd said that should permission be granted at the back and the garage, that this would be removed for public amenity benefit.
Quite hard.
So, Nick, could you maybe capture that comment about the public community benefit
Yeah, okay, we'll do.
of removing the on-site parking at the front of the property?
Perhaps they want to build another garage there.
Well, I think it shows room for 3 cars instead of 4. I think the previous application.
Strikes me as a bit of having your cake and eating it.
I know. But they've made room for a gym now. So we need to move on now to 25 Castle Street. And again, I thought we
discussed it
looked at
already.
this one.
Yeah, we're quite happy with this.
So the previous one was HH, and this one is an LBC. So presumably this is the listed building consent.
That's correct, Chairman.
We made no objection to the what I'm not quite sure what HH stands for, but for the earlier application.
Householder application.
Thank you, Councillor Ruffles. So we made no objection to the householder application, so similar comments should apply for this listed building consent. We discussed it quite fully actually before we then made our no comment. Well, no objection, I should say.
Yeah, no.
We can then move on to 18 Mandeville Road. Now, there was again an earlier application for the demolition of a garage at the rear and construction of single-story rear extension. We had no objection when we heard it at our committee meeting, but it was refused on the grounds of the flat roof was a poor design and it was overbearing. For the overall scale of the building. Obviously, Mandeville Road, the properties are, I was going to say relatively modern, but they're 1970s, Councillor Ruffles, perhaps? Or
No, earlier than that.
earlier than that, yeah. But relatively modern construction. Does anyone have any observations?
Well, we felt it was okay for the size of the site, and actually number 20 next door has been extended substantially anyway, so we thought perhaps there was no way to object to it.
Yeah. Lee, that might well have been our thinking. So personally, I've no objection.
Agree. I would agree with you.
All right. That means we can move on then to 27A London Road.
Yeah. I didn't
Now
think
this
we
is
were
in the
told
green
enough.
belt.
In this one, Chairman, I didn't feel we'd been told enough about the materials that were being used. It says rendering, and but it's a very scanty application. I've got no real issues about the actual construction work being done and changing the layout of the house. But the look of it, it doesn't really tell us a great deal, it seems to me.
Councillor Pinkham, I've made exactly the same note. I have exactly the same view, that we've got no information on what type of cladding. So, Nick, our picture hasn't updated on our screens. I know you're grappling.
Yeah. If you look at the house as it currently is, I would have thought any cladding would be an improvement. I don't know. I agree with you, but
well, Councillor Terrego, it's nice of you to say that, but that is almost identical to the house that I live in. The only danger difference is that we've clad ours with creeper rather than
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't know whether it's aluminium cladding, wooden cladding. Nick, we still can't see.
Actually, I meant more the state of it. Actually, the state of repair.
Yeah,
That's all.
it's not in very good condition.
No, that's not. Yeah, that's it. Modern design.
Let's just try and find. Yeah.
I find it hard to think this is a green belt application, though, Chairman.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know why it says green belt when it's on the side of a dual carriageway.
Yeah.
Well, or is it just inside? It's actually on the dual carriageway, isn't it? Or-
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah.
on the dual carriageway.
Yeah.
We lose a garage, but apparently we get more parking.
Yeah.
It backs onto greenery.
But they're not the extension is at the front rather than the rear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, and there's dozens of photographs, not quite sure why, but
No.
for me, I mean, it'd just be a comment, Nick, that whilst the committee have no objection in principle, there appears to be insufficient information regarding the cladding, the proposed materials, let's put it like that, to be used.
It's also this is a place where you need to worry about your car being broken into, isn't it?
Brilliant.
I know it's got a single garage, which clearly you can't get your car in. Those weeds haven't been moved for a while, haven't been bothered for a while.
Probably in a utility room or something.
Well, they're converting it, aren't they? Yeah. Perhaps we could move on to 43 Port Vale.
Yeah.
And perhaps is another example of where a lot of the properties along there have had rear extensions, side and rear extensions, single story. I know it's in the conservation area, but
it's the one that I wanted to focus on, Chairman. It's one of four, isn't it, in a row that have been largely unaltered. So they had their own context, and there's a very narrow gap between 43 and 45.
Yeah.
45 is part of a different vintage terrace, but that I think that gap between them is between 43 and 45 is very important, and if the extension is far enough back, then probably that's fine for me, but I think that the integrity of the row of four of them, the very end one on the sweeping corner is a separate property in a different design altogether, and then there's this row of four, and then a long terrace of slightly different vintage, but these look really unspoiled and good, and I think ought to keep their distinctive block form.
Is there I was going to say, here we are, yes, is before and after? There is, isn't there? And I don't think that they're proposing extending into that gap.
No, it's a single story side extension though.
But
What you can
is it?
If we could just go back again to that
gap there,
the plan.
They're building into the wider gap that was, but not the narrow gap.
Yeah, the previous.
Yeah,
there's a gap there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of the things,
not that one. Existing and proposed
last week, and then only.
Yeah, so they're just it's sort of like infilling the L, if you like, the inverted L.
Yeah, they're just they're widening the existing rear extension, which is part of the original design of the building. I can't see anything really so terrible about that. You can't see it from the front.
No, I withdraw my objection. I'd done the usual thing, Chairman, of looking last week at the drawings and then a site visit today, and I haven't gone back to the drawings to look.
That's fine.
I missed.
Oh, are we happy with a no objection?
Yeah.
A lot of glazing, but that seems to be the way these days. Okay, I believe it's a no objection then, Nick. We can move back to the agenda. Oh, let's see if I can find it. I've lost it now. Here we go. So paper D then. Any observations regarding paper D? The only comment I would make is that you've probably seen that the Co-op supermarket on Bengio Street has been granted. Now, our original objection was to a car park at the rear, and having looked at the documentation, there's no mention of the rear car park. So whether that's now been removed.
I think this is signage, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they approved the signage, but not the car parking. I think they backed off on the car parking, from what I can tell.
Yeah. So I don't think they're proposing any car park now. This was for the new refrigeration and storage and all the rest of it.
Yes, air conditioning. But was there not a separate application for the car parking?
Yes,
element?
there was.
I can't find it on the system.
No,
so
I couldn't. I looked for that.
Removed.
It doesn't come up as a separate application. I seem to remember we had public representation in committee about the.
And we objected quite strongly on their behalf, really, and it seems to have disappeared.
Yeah, I did a search today, and I wonder whether it's another one that was withdrawn and therefore doesn't come up on a search. I can't. I expected to see some reference to the fact that the car parking had been withdrawn. It's quite a significant application for us, neighbourhood-wise.
There was quite a campaign locally, wasn't it, against it?
Yeah.
Maybe they're about to that.
Well,
the rear wasn't it the trees and the fumes and whatnot were really looking behind.
So I think that concludes paper D, and we can move on to paper E, which is a licensing application. And there's one for, I'm guessing, Lussman's. Well, it's described as JL20 Restaurants Limited. But it's 79 to 83 4th Street.
Yeah.
Nick, are you aware of the difference between supply of alcohol on the premises and late night refreshment?
Chairman, not specifically. Let's have a look. What's the difference? 12 to.
It's one where you can stand at the bar, and the other one is with your meal or something like that.
The timing begins at 23 for late night refreshment.
Yes, I believe that might be the case. Yeah, late night is.
They're looking for a supply of alcohol till midnight, which is sort of beyond the conventional licensing time. Personally, it's a restaurant, and I can understand the need, but till midnight, Monday to Saturday, until 11:30 on a Sunday night. Does anyone have any observations? Or
I don't think it's not extreme. I don't think we're not talking about 2 a.m. I think it's okay.
They've got New Year in, so.
Yeah. So that's a no objection, I believe, Nick.
Okay. Yep.
When they come out of lockdown, yeah.
No, well, as and when. Item 10. Is there any correspondence, Nick, for us to consider? Appeals.
Just check. I think there is actually. Hold on a second. Just get my on my computer. Items here.
24 Queens Road and the Waterworks Cottage, Wade's Mill Road.
I've seen 2 here. Hold on a second. Before I've seen it, I'm sure we have got some correspondence. Let me just. maybe that's. No, just
Okay.
checking. I haven't got no correspondence.
And item 11, any items for future agenda? I think it'd be great if we could declare this meeting closed then, and we have a full council meeting in 24 minutes. So thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
fellow
Chairman.
Thank you very much.
councillors.
Very
We'll
much.
see you shortly.
See you all shortly. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.